Good morning, everyone. Actually, maybe it's almost afternoon, but anyway, thank you. Thank you for listening in. I want to address a topic that seems to be coming up recently more than normal. A lot of the middle school and high school students I'm working with, uh, it's the end of the first marking quarter, and what happens often there is there's a increase in the number of tests and assignments as the quarter comes to an end. And that's not something new. I think sometimes teachers are just trying to get an extra grade in or some kind of culminating project or something like that, which is fine. What I am hearing students tell me is they study, they study, they study. They feel like they have a pretty good handle on the material, and then they go into the test, and there's things that they didn't study or they're not sure about, or they feel like they studied it one way, but they were asked another way. And this is actually the topic of my podcast this week. But I wanted to just address it really quickly because my goal always with these lives, with the podcasts, with everything, is to give students and parents actions that they can take right away. This is my goal. So I'm going to try to do that very quickly. So let me give you a tip that I often tell my students a kind of a workaround for this. There's really no perfect solution. Let's kind of be clear about that. But here's the idea. You're going to have information, and it's going to be taught in a certain way. Different teachers have different styles. Different students have different learning styles. That's another discussion. But what you need to do is be able to organize the information in a certain way, and you need to be able to use it in what I call top down and bottom up. And what I mean by this is, let's say, for example, I was working with a student yesterday. They're learning about macromolecules, and the topic is probably less important, but it's a chemistry biology. It's a biology topic that has chemistry pieces to it. So these are the things that comprise living things like carbohydrates and proteins and lipids and amino acids and things like this. Anyway, so there's little tiny details like what makes up a carbohydrate, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, whatever. And then they come together to make glucose, which is a monomer, and then that comes together to make polymers and blah, blah, blah. So you can learn this material from the smallest detail to the next level, higher, higher, higher up, until you get to the biggest possible idea, which in this particular example would be the four macromolecules of life. Or you could flip it around, and you can learn it from the top down. What is the biggest idea, the four macromolecules? Or what are they? One, two, three, four. What's going on with each of them? What's going on in the carbohydrate one, and the protein one, and the lipid one, and the nucleic acid one? And then look at the details that way. And this way, what you can do is you can relate things, like I was saying before, sort of bottom to top, small ideas to big ideas, or big ideas down to small ideas. This tends to work really well when you have material that covers a lot of ground and there's a lot of detail, and you're not sure how to bring all the detail together. And this is something I really want to throw out there. This is something I work with. It's easier to do when you're working with a student and you have material to actually talk about. But my point is, if you're a student and you're having trouble, it is a disconnect between what your perception of the work that you did and the rewards you're getting when you take a test. It may be not that you don't know the material, but you're not preparing for the material in a way that's going to help you as much to show that you understand it on the test. So I'm going to flash this up here. If you have any more questions, you can send me an email. It is on the screen here, askgreen@makethegrade.net. My website, not surprisingly, makethegrade.net. There's a lot of information there, and there's ways to contact me there as well. I always like to point out, please get involved in the Make the Grade Maximum Education community. It is a great resource. These are recorded, and you can replay and listen to them there. So whether you're listening to this live or on the replay, you may already be in the community. There's some really neat things that are going to roll out in the community in the next 60 days. And this live isn't really to plug the community, but it kind of is, because everything kind of centers there. So just to close it out, if you want any more information or you need more study tips, check out the podcast, go to the website, look at the information. I'm all about giving you action in order to get these things done. So just to refresh, You can look at information, biggest stuff down to small, or small stuff kind of up, as it were, to big. Really, you want to do both. And that way, it sort of assures that you have a good handle on the information so that regardless of how you get asked about it, you can answer detailed questions, multiple choice, fill in the blank, or you can answer a short discussion or a long discussion question. So hopefully this has been helpful. I always like to look and see if there's questions here. We got one question: would this work with any subject? Yes, but it works better in things like history, biology subjects, English, where you have lists of information and interrelated information. I don't know if this is the best way to study math. For example, math, I think you want to be more process oriented, which is a fancy way of saying that you want to just practice math. If you're learning about parabolas or whatever, or multiplication or long division or fractions, you want to just do repetitive work with those things. That's old school, but there's a reason why old school works. But generally, yes, this is a really good way to organize and learn information. Second question, it sounds like a great idea, but does it take a lot of time? I'm paraphrasing. It can. It can. Studying takes time, but one of the things I like to teach through the time management and the information management techniques of the Maximum Education book are exactly ways to increase efficiency with these things. So in the beginning, when you're not accustomed to these things, yeah, maybe it does take more time. But I think in the long run, no, because I think you get more efficient, you get better at it. It becomes part of your normal routine and your normal study regimen. And I think that, well, I know that in the end, that the trade-off is worth it. So I'm going to close out here. I appreciate everybody who came on. And hopefully this has been useful. Again, Dr. Stephen Green, the Success Doctor. See you soon.